Hi everyone, welcome back. This is your last bit of material we have to cover for this unit. Nothing is new, we are just going to do applications. So those are word problems, and this is short and sweet. And then we'll have one more video lesson, which is just starting into a review, making a cheat sheet for your test tomorrow. Our learning goals, we're just going to use some factoring strategies that we've learned so far, maybe some substitution, some calculator work to solve a problem. So there's only one example, so you can definitely copy it down, pause it before moving on, copy down A, B, C, D, and then we can do the solution together. So the question reads, a cannonball is shot into the air. Its height can be described by this equation. That's obviously in factored form. H is the height in feet. T is the time in seconds. We want to know what are the zeros, what do the zeros mean, what's the axis of symmetry, what does that mean, and then we're going to use the axis of symmetry to find the vertex and explain what the vertex means for the cannonball. So I'm going to do all the solutions on the next slide. You can just do them underneath on your note. So I'm just going to rewrite the equation. H equals -3 t minus 1 and t minus 9. So part A asks what are the zeros. This is already in factored form for us. So it's pretty easy. Remember, the zeros are whatever makes each bracket 0. So if I look at the first bracket, t minus 1, what value for t makes that first bracket 0? In other words, what minus 1 is 0? Hopefully you're thinking the answer is 1. 1 minus 1 is 0, so that works. And the other one, what makes the second bracket 0? So what minus 9 is 0? That's 9. 9 minus 9 is 0. So there's our two zeros. Question B more or less asks, what do the zeros mean? So maybe we'll draw a little sketch. It's always a good idea to make a sketch. So we got time in seconds, and we have height in feet. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9. Sorry for those scribbles. There's 1. So when zeros are along the x-axis, or in this case where t is for time, and we have 1 at 1, so we have a point at 1, and we have another one at 9. And then our cannonball is going to get shot up, go up, and then come back down. So more or less, in the context of this word problem, what do the zeros mean? Those are the times when the cannonball is on the ground. So the times when the cannonball are on the ground. So this means it lands at 9 seconds, so it takes 9 seconds to land, something else you could say, and it takes 1 second for it to blast off. So if I asked you to write something creative about that, you could say it takes 1 second for someone to load the cannonball into the cannon, or more than likely it takes a second once it's lit to ignite. So it takes a second to ignite, and then the cannonball blasts off and then hits the ground at 9 seconds. C asks you what the axis of symmetry is and what does it mean. Now we can't use our formula. So remember we had that formula negative b over 2a. That's only when it's in standard form, and our equation was given to us in factored form. Now if you wanted to go through all the work to make it standard form, you could, but there is an easier way. So the axis of symmetry, remember, is always halfway between your zeros. How do you find halfway between two numbers? You add them together and divide by 2. Or you could use finger math and put your one finger on 1 and put your other finger on 9 and move them in towards each other until you meet in the middle. I'm going to take the two numbers, add them, and divide by 2, just because obviously you can't see my fingers. So 1 plus 9 is 10. Divided by 2 equals 5. And 5 is definitely halfway between 1 and 9. What does it mean? This means that it takes, so 2, 3, there's 5 right there. It takes 5 seconds to reach the max height. D asks you to find the vertex using the axis of symmetry and explain what it means. So we know that at 5, that's where I get my max height. But we need to figure out what that is. So we got to put 5 in for all the t's to get our height. So height equals -3, and then replace all the t's with 5s. And according to Bedmas, you got to do the brackets first. So 5 minus 1 is 4. 5 minus 9 is -4. You could just enter this into your calculator just like you see it, but I'll go through all the steps. And then if you multiply those, -3 times 4 is -12, times -4 is 48. So this equals 48, which means our vertex is 5, 48. So my max height is 48. Explain what it means. We already said it takes 5 seconds to reach the max height. If you had to write a descriptive sentence about it, I'm kind of running out of room here, but you would say the max height of the cannonball is 48 feet after 5 seconds. Now, hopefully that makes sense. It's just using our factored form. If by chance I don't give you a question that's in factored form, you would just factor it first using the skills you guys have been practicing. I'm sure you're all pros at it by now. And then you would go through all these questions. Like I said, short and sweet, that's it. Remember from this morning, achievement checks. Obviously I can't collect them and mark them and get them back anymore. But I would say they're good practice for like test questions and how you're doing with the course material. So, as I mentioned this morning, I wouldn't disregard these. I would still do them as seat work and do it before you do your workbook stuff. And again, ask Mr. Hack or send me a picture on Hasia or via email, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can to let you know if you're doing things correctly or not. So your work, based off this lesson, section 2.10, number 1 and 2, don't worry about the other questions, just do numbers 1 and number 2, and then get started on 2.11, which is your review work out of your workbook. And then when you tune in sometime this afternoon for your third video lesson, we are going to be making a cheat sheet that you can use for your test. Have a good lunch.